Hello and welcome to episode 35 of And No. Thank you for joining me this week. If at the end of this podcast you can think of someone who might enjoy hearing it, I'd love it if you could send it their way. I truly appreciate the help to share And Know with your community. And now on to episode 35. There is a framed saying in our home that I hold near and dear. And the saying is faith over fear. And here's why I love it. Each of us experiences fear at some point in our lives. And it's in those moments we have a choice to make: stay in our fear or live out in faith. Now, this kind of fear isn't about spiders or the dark. This kind of fear is the fear of the unknown. Now, I'm not dismissing phobias. Those who know me know that I truly hate spiders. Currently, not even joking, there is a candle sitting on top of a spider on the floor in front of me. That will be removed when my husband comes home. I would like to ask my son, but he is away at camp. I don't like spiders. I question their very existence and absolutely question the annoyingly large number of species that exist. Fun/not fun fact, there are over 50,000 types of spiders. And I simply ask, why? Why is that necessary? Now, today we're not talking about phobias. The fear today is about the lack of trust and a lack of belief when it comes to our faith stories. Only 3 words, but the saying faith over fear holds a lot of weight. Now, I don't know your faith story, but I can share a bit about mine. And in truth, without question, fear has taken over more times than I can count. My fear is the unknown. My fear of the unknown has weakened my faith because I am a person who really, really likes to know what's coming up and what my tomorrow will bring. But on a much deeper level, I don't like to be rattled. I don't like being questioned, and I don't like uncertainty, especially when it comes to my faith. What I love, absolutely love about the Bible is that it is chocked full of stories of people who have experienced doubt. I am not alone. And one of the very best examples for me is the story of Peter walking on the water. Settle in as I read Matthew 14, verses 22 to 32. Jesus walks on the water. Immediately, Jesus made the disciples get into a boat and go on ahead of him to the other side, while he dismissed the crowd. After he had dismissed them, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. And later that night, he was there alone, and the boat was already a considerable distance from land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. Shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them, walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and they cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid." "Lord, if it's you," Peter replied, "tell me to come to you on the water." "Come," he said. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came toward Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid and, beginning to sink, cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately, Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You of little faith," he said, "why did you doubt?" And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down, and those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." There is so much to unpack here, but here are a few highlights for me. Take note of the word buffeted that was used to describe the waves. It's not like walking on calm water would have been any less incredible, but the word buffeted is defined as strike repeatedly and violently, to batter. So this boat was in a storm. Next, the Bible tells us that it was shortly before dawn, and that means it was still dark. Thus, it makes perfect sense why they didn't recognize Jesus. I mean, if I put myself in their shoes, and I saw anyone walking on water, my first thought wasn't going to be, oh, look, I know him. It's going to be, there's somebody walking on the water. But regardless, the Bible tells us that they cried out in fear. Perfectly reasonable, in my opinion. The next verse that comes is just awesome. Verse 27. But Jesus immediately said to them, take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid. Did you catch it? Immediately, Jesus addresses them. He doesn't just keep walking towards them. He hears their fear and talks to them right away, immediately. The same goes for you and me. Jesus does not want you sitting in your fear. Talk to him, yell it out, cry it out. He can handle it and wants you to know he's listening to you, just like he was listening to those in the boat. And now we're at the point where Peter is introduced to us in the story. And Peter decides to test out the claim that this person is indeed Jesus. Lord, if it's you, Peter replied, tell me to come to you on the water. I don't get it. Like, for argument's sake, what if it wasn't Jesus? You're going to trust walking on water to anyone? Peter says, Lord, if it's you. Like, I personally wanted to have confirmation before I would get on the water. But Peter is saying, Lord, if it's you. He has faith over fear. Peter had faith. I don't know what I would have done in that situation. I just don't know. But before I get too hard on myself, the Bible reminds us that indeed Peter is also human and also gets rattled every now and again. Take a listen to this verse. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came toward Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid and beginning to sink, cried out, Lord, save me. He had faith. He got down out of the boat. He was walking. He was walking on water. He was doing it. He was living out in faith. But the distractions got a hold of him. The Bible tells us that he saw the wind, which means he took his eyes off of Jesus. And when his focus shifted away from Jesus, fear took over and he began to sink in a storm, caught between the boat and Jesus. At this time, it was fear over faith. But again, Jesus' actions should bring us such great comfort when we too are struggling with our fears. Verse 31, immediately, Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. You of little faith, he said, why did you doubt? Did you catch it again? Immediately, Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. Peter called out to Jesus. He didn't call out to his buddies in the boat. He didn't call out to the wind or to the wave goddess. He called out to the one he knew would save him, and Jesus did immediately. And again, the same goes for you and me. Jesus does not want you sinking in your fear either. He will rescue you. And then the last part, Jesus calls Peter out. You of little faith, why did you doubt? Now you might read this and think, that's harsh, but I think some background is pretty important here. To date, Peter has witnessed firsthand that Jesus has fed 5,000 people with 5 loaves and 2 fish. There were leftovers as well. He has seen Jesus cast out demons and has witnessed healing before his very eyes. He saw a paralyzed man start walking. He has heard Jesus teach and seen thousands turn to him because Jesus is the Messiah. Peter has been a part of the story. He has literally had an eyewitness account to everything that you and I can only read about. And know this. Now, I wasn't with Peter and Jesus, but I don't think Jesus questioned Peter out of anger. I don't think he yelled at him. Why? Because at the end of this, the Bible tells us that both Peter and Jesus went into the boat and the wind died down. Jesus could have put Peter in and said, I am done with your doubts, and walked away on that water and left them to fend for themselves. But he didn't. He joined Peter and the others. and the storm stopped. So here's what we know. We know that Jesus hears us when we are afraid. He helps us when we are afraid, and he doesn't get fed up with us. Faith over fear. It's so very easy for us to have the script flipped and live in a constant state of fear over faith. But that's not the life intended for us. Peter was indeed being buffeted. And you and I too will have seasons in our lives where we will be battling a lot. The choice we have, though, is what do we do when we are in those storms? Who do we call out to? Who do we reach for? And who is the constant that will never disappoint or ignore you? It may not be easy. In fact, we all know that life isn't easy. But let us make the choice to have faith over fear. Because even when we aren't sure, Jesus is. And that alone should take fear out of the equation. But because we have a lot in common with Peter, we can also be very thankful for the faithfulness of our Heavenly Father, who will always remain, even if we feel like we're sinking. I hope today's podcast has been a blessing to you. It's a little longer than usual, but hopefully it has brought you some real encouragement.